So hello, everybody. This is Karen Rands, the Compassionate Capitalist. And I have a very special guest today on the show. Jim Debetta is, I would say, the definitive expert on bringing products to market, turning inventors' dreams and passions into, showing them the way to create a business. If you participate in my Compassionate Capitalist coffee breaks, I talk a lot of times about, the sequencing of bringing a product to market and stuff like that. Everything I know about that, I know from this guy, Jim Debetta. So I'm really excited. This is, I think, probably our fourth time we've known each other for a decade plus.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while now since, it's probably been years since we've had this kind of a conversation. So I'm very excited to have Jim on the show with me today. So, hey, welcome, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm happy to be here and excited to talk about inventing and investing and all the things that surround this whole business. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's kind of jump into some of that stuff. So, I've said you're the best, but I know you kind of grew up in the whole business of product marketing, and I remember your story. So tell everybody that may not have heard it, tell a little bit about your story and how you've had this very interesting journey to get to where you are to truly be an expert in, taking products to market. So, and I know you've worked with some pretty big name celebrities in representing their desires to monetize inventions that they've invested in. So talk a little bit about that for us.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, Karen. Yeah, I really have been doing this like my whole life. Okay. I mean, from a kid, my parents owned a chain of hardware stores. And so I grew up in that consumer product realm anyway. And you learn a lot about the business from the inside. You learn how goods get purchased. You learn how to sell them. You learn how customers react to buying things, in a store setting. And I didn't think this is what I would be doing. It's kind of funny because people say, well, oh, did you always think you were going to be in the inventing business? I really didn't think so. I really wanted to be a lawyer, actually. I used to watch was it LA Law, and you see Artie, and they're in the bar and they're hanging out and having drinks after. I'm like, oh, that looks like they're making money. They're hanging out. Looks like,
what a life.
I want to go do that. But then as you go into college, you're like, it's not like that. It's you're reading books. You're in an office. You're not living that life. So, and anyway, I kind of stumbled back into this business. I got involved in a sport optics company back on Long Island, where I'm from. And, we started importing binoculars and telescopes and handheld magnifiers, and never thought I'd be doing that. But we wound up selling millions and millions of dollars to everyone from Brookstone to Walmart to Target to, you name it. I mean, we were everywhere. But we did it the hard way. We didn't have all the technology we have today. We didn't have email back then. We had to get in front of a buyer and, pitch them. We had to go to trade shows and meet people. So all that still translates into today. And what happened is after I left the company, I said, well, what am I going to do next? The natural progression is, well, hey, why don't I help people do what I did, but do it without making the mistakes and do it faster and without spending as much money and all that. And so it kind of just turned into, an entire business for me. And then of course the advent of Twitter and Facebook came along in the mid 2000s. And then, before you knew it, I was working with people like Startup Nation. And then I got involved with Shark Tank with Kevin Harrington, helping him get products that he was funding on the show into retail, which led for me, writing for Inventors Digest. And then I started speaking everywhere. I mean, it just kind of snowballed. But I think that one of the main reasons, Karen, is because everybody seems to be an inventor. Everyone, kids, older people, men, women, doesn't matter what work you do. Everybody has an idea for something. And with all these TV shows now and the internet and everything else, it keeps me busy. I mean, there's no question. So, I'm still at it today more than ever, helping people get their products developed and then, of course, into the big chain stores and on major websites.
Okay, so that kind of led me to an interesting thought, because I know when I talk about so the original, part of this, the whole creating the Compassionate Capitalist movement, the original version of this I used to help rebuild my angel investor group back a decade ago after I took it over from the gentleman that had started it and wanted to retire. And it was after the .com, and I needed to rebuild this thing. And I realized that one of the things that was lacking was education. I also wanted to establish myself as an authority on that topic. And back then, it was before, like you talking about, the social media. We had Google AdWords and article writing, and email was kind of on the up and coming. I used Constant Contact. I didn't have a CRM or anything like that. And so, and it was good, right? I mean, I gained great momentum. Thousands of people opted in and got the ebook version of this, the free version of it at the time. And, that was the thing. And one of the things that I realized in bringing this book to market and trying to spread the word is that it's, I'm connected in all kinds of ways on social media. I have like all these big groups and all this kind of stuff, but people aren't really paying attention. You're not really as connected. It's all about like this kind of stuff, having conversations with people and things like that. So my question to you, because to me, it's almost been as challenging, and it almost goes to this whole thing where people think like crowdfunding, because of crowdfunding, it's easier to raise capital. And one of the reasons why this book is out is to educate the investors on how to look for deals and understand the deal. So I try to tell entrepreneurs when I advise them and consult them on raising capital that, yeah, the barrier between investors and entrepreneurs has been removed for the most part, because there's 4 different ways you can raise capital through general solicitation. But the requirements, it's almost the level of what you have to provide is even higher, because it's harder to get this face-to-face kind of thing. So to your story, back then when you used to have to do it, feet on the street, talking, glad handing with people, and now you have all these various, internet-based or, digital-based ways of communicating and promoting. And for somebody that's inventing a product, is it just as hard or harder because it's so much easier, so everybody's kind of jumping in, and it's harder for the buyers or the marketplace to sort through the noise? Or is the digital way that we do things easier for investors? Inventors, how does that kind of relate to, you know what I mean?
Well, I think overall it's a lot easier today to bring a product to market.
Yes.
I mean, access to information is tremendous. In a way, though, that's bad, because what happens is inventors will go online and they'll look up how to patent something, how to prototype something, whatever. And then there's so much information, they don't know how to sort out what they should believe, what's accurate, and who to trust. So it's a blessing and a curse in a way, right? So, 20 years ago, you would have to go on a word of mouth, like, hey, Karen, who do you know that does this? There is no website to check. You'd have to go meet the person. It was difficult, but the connection was usually pretty strong because it was a human connection. Now people go online, right? They want to find out about investing. They can look up people that are like you, but they don't have the credentials that you have. So that becomes a big thing. So it's like, hey, I'm Karen. I've been doing this forever. Versus people now all of a sudden become experts that haven't been around for a couple of years, but they're experts because you can make yourself look great on the internet, right?
Yeah.
People do it, but they don't have the resume. They don't have the experience. But overall, going online, it's great because you can get access to information easier. And when inventors work with me, they can email me information, sell sheets, presentation decks, price sheets. We could email that to the buyer. I could Skype with a buyer. I could Zoom with a buyer. So that the timelines can go a little bit quicker because you don't have to mail things or get on a plane and see somebody. The process is still the same. You still have to present a product. The buyer still has to like it. They still have to get a sample. That has not changed. But the way in which you can learn how to invent or learn how to invest or anything in this business is easier as long as you get with the right people that know what they're talking about. You just have to be very careful. I tell inventors all the time, look, you can get a lot of information on the internet, and by all means, go get educated. But you need somebody then to kind of corral it all and distill things down and say, that's not true. Just because you read it on the internet doesn't mean you should believe it. And you get all that stuff. So people, if they come, say, to investing, they go to you because you've been around. and you're proven. So people can say, you know what, Karen, I read 10 things, and you can say, yeah, those 3 are true, those 4 are fake, these 3 are questionable, whatever. 4, 3. Did I get the math right? 4.
Yeah.
I got 10 right. But that's a big piece today, that inventors and anybody that is looking for capital has to understand that they have to still look for people that have been there. And we've done it old school.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So we're not just talking about how to do it. We've done it the hard way, I think. And now we have all these tools. So it just allows us to help people in an even better way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that kind of triggered, because it's always been amazing to me, and I'm going to come out with my next one. This is kind of the start. When you're building a movement, you can't do it just on one book. So that's
a big book too. That's a big,
it's 300
novel
pages there. It's 100.
My book is like this.
Yeah.
100 something pages. It's like a coffee table. Like you could read the book in like a couple hours. But I made it because people kept asking me the same questions over and over. And I said, I should write a book, and the book answers all the questions.
Yeah.
Your book is definitely a beefier, more in depth. Mine was more like hey, you'll learn the basics of inventing by the time.
Yeah.
But
it's the cornerstone. This is the cornerstone. It's the foundation. And then from this, there's going to be a number of other ones that kind of splice it down and get into a little bit of a detail for inside secrets to investing in entertainment, inside secrets for women entrepreneurs and investors, all of those different types of categories. And then there's going to be an entrepreneur version. And then I'm going to get into all of the digital products like what you're doing to help people be able to, when they want it, 24/7. We're a 24/7 communications world, and the world is flat, right? So people, wherever they are, if they can get good quality information, they can then be able to learn and get to a point where they, I always I have a program that where I've done a podcast and a video series and things like that, and that's one of the products that'll come out. I call it the 1-10-100. And it's the DIY. When you don't have money to hire people and you don't want to pay for learning what you don't know, you want to learn what you don't know so you can spend your money wisely. So you take a year, that's one, and you spend 10 hours a week and you budget $100 a month that you're going to go to various seminars, or it might be a webinar, or you might have to go to a meet and greet with other entrepreneurs, things like that. So you can learn how to build your team. You can learn how to sort of this kind of sequencing. You're investing time in watching webinars and things like that. And you spend a year doing that. So you before you get started, so you really have the foundation. And along the way, you'll probably meet an investor that might be one of those seed investors for you, because they show your passion and commitment to the education process of building your foundation and doing it right. And that's when people come to me and I got no money to pay you, Karen. I go, well, go do the DIY one. It's the reason why I feel like I have to do a book on the entrepreneur side, although getting a lot of feedback from entrepreneurs that this book is valuable as well, because it's interesting to learn how the angel investors think, and also what they look for, and all the different types of ways that you can raise money, because I talk about that in the book. The resource portal that comes with it is vast value, like vast value. It has all of these worksheets and tools and things like that, and samples of documents and legal documents and things like that they can use. So it's not the first time they're using it, and they can know what they want to do and how they want to do things. And so, but it's constantly surprising to me how much, with all the information that is out there, whether it's for your case, inventing and bringing a product to market, but also just for plain old starting a business and raising capital. I talked to an entrepreneur group yesterday, and they had this valuation. They haven't yet finished inventing their product. They don't have an MVP. It's a software product, and it's pretty credible. It's going to be it sounds like they have a niche in the marketplace because of a exit that happened that created an opportunity, and they're evaluating their company at $10 million as without having any kind of product, based on the idea that they're going to be at $14 million in revenue in 5 years. Well, you and I know that doesn't really equate to a valuation model like that. And the way they came up with that is because one of the guys that's advising them is in real estate, and one of these guys that sells real estate seminars and stuff like that told him about this lawyer that's his friend that did a PPM for him to raise $1 million in $100,000 increments, where 1% for $100,000 in one unit, right? And so there's like, it creates all these things where they're going to have to eventually do a recapitalization, because you can never go public with a one unit that started at 100,000 or even sell. You know what I mean? It's just the math. It doesn't happen, and they didn't think to go. I don't know. Go out there and look and see what other kind of information. How should I structure? I mean, there's lots of information out there, but whatever money that they spent on that, I told them, I said, did you get unlimited rewrites on that PPM? Because you're going to need to rewrite that and restructure. The only money they've raised so far is 15 grand. So they've done a fraction of a unit on that. You know what I mean? That's like, and so it's just amazing to me. There's so much that comes out on an annual basis and there's education in our university systems on entrepreneurism. And it's still something that is so needed out there. One of the benefits of hopefully people watching this is that they'll understand and they'll take that deeper dive to educate themselves on the process of starting a company, raising a capital, and bringing products to market and all that stuff, and tap into yours. And we're kind of not quite halfway through, but I want to make sure, in case people stop listening, how do they find information with you? It's your name, right? You still have your...
Yeah, I always say you can't hide anymore. So, if people go online, weknowbusiness.info, not .com or org, weknowbusiness.info is my main website. But if they go online, Facebook, I'm there quite a bit. I have, my name, Get Retail Ready is one of my groups and pages. You got We Know Inventing is my major group for, inventors to go in and talk about their inventions. And, we drop a lot of information on there about inventing. And, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, excuse me, somebody types in my name, they'll find me. And, but Karen, coming back to your point, every inventor needs money. Every business person needs money. And yes, it does and it does not shock me how sometimes people know very little about valuing a company. I get people to email me all the time, like, Jim, I have no business, no sales, no product, but I think my company's worth $20 million. Where'd you come up with that? And they come up with, well, if I did, 1% of the market, no, there's a lot more that goes into it than that. And when I tell people, and it's the same thing we were talking about earlier, there's so much information, but they need somebody who's an authority to say, no, this is how you need to frame that up. These are the tools you need. These are the steps you need to follow to understand, the cost side of your product, the expenditure side, the revenue and profit side. And, they don't see that stuff. They want to kind of skip it and just overvalue their company because they have a great invention. And there's that emotional attachment where they feel like their invention's worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
Yes, who knows, right? But, I always say to them, here's the question I say. Would you invest in your company with the information you're providing yourself? And
right.
They're like, probably not. Well, then there's the question. You can't just guess.
Yeah.
Your steps. And whether you're, like you said, whether you're going through, an angel investor or crowdfunding, or I don't care how you're raising money. Money is money is money. And people ask questions and they want to know how the money is being spent. And I could tell you, and you know this, angel investors don't want a 5 and 10% return on their money.
Exactly.
They want 50%, 100%, 200%. I know if I'm investing in something, I want a huge return. I understand there's major risks, but if I'm an angel investor that has experience in that particular area, so if I'm an angel investor that works with product companies, the big value for inventors is that they look for investors that have some business sense or knowledge or experience in the areas that they're getting involved in, because
right.
Not only you're getting the money, but you're getting somebody who can help you. And obviously they want to get their money. Yeah. So, they have a vested interest and can actually help you or enhance your chances of being successful. So, but like you said, there's so many parts and pieces that go into it. That's why your book's great, because, you can outline and explain to people from a higher view, look, these are the types of things that you got to be aware of and look for and do and understand, other than just going on the internet and downloading a form and just filling in the blanks. It's not.
Exactly. And part of the reason for the book and why I did it the way I did it is because, we've had this major shift in regulations with the Jobs Act that we call it disintermediation. I think is the right word. It's like I don't know if it's a made up word. A friend of mine, Dara Albright, who is really an expert in Reg A Plus and this whole fintech space. She kind of came up with it when they first came out with that. And I realized that based on my own knowledge of working with investors for 15 years and using this to rebuild and what makes people, when they're writing their own checks, get comfortable with the process. And I realized that a lot of times when I first started interviewing investors back 15 years ago to say, well, how did you become an investor? Why did you do this? Why did you pick this company over that company? Why didn't you invest in this company? And I said, well, how did you get started? And they would say, oh, a friend of mine invited me to a meeting and I invested in these companies and I lost all my money and I learned from losing my money. And I was like, that's a horrible way to learn how to be an angel investor. Not a lot of people have a fortitude or enough cash to be able to, lose a lot of money and then still do it again and again. It's like, oh, hit me again. No, so I said, I realized that the Jobs Act, I call it the great experiment, because it really was, the goal was to create jobs by removing the barriers for people to invest in small businesses and grow them, because all of our job creation comes from small business. The greatest number of jobs come from small businesses and startups that become big businesses. And so the worst thing that can happen is for somebody, because they see an invention, let's use that as an example, and they go, oh, that's so exciting. I've been looking for that kind of a thing. And, doctors are a classic example. I've seen this all the time on biomed, where they're like, oh, that's a great invention. And then they don't really understand business. So they don't understand what has to go around an invention to actually make it into a profitable company. And so they'll just invest out of emotion, right? And then they may or may not, or they get restructured and may or may not succeed. I've seen a couple of these ones that it's taken them a decade to get to the point that they have. And that's a long time on that. And so the worst thing that can happen would be somebody that, whether they're investing $2,000 or $20,000 or $200,000, depending on their level of capacity for investing, they invest on emotion without understanding what it takes for that. What else do you look at besides the excitement of that product? You want to, I call it the Warren Buffett model. You want to invest in things you know and understand and that you can relate to. But then there's all this other stuff, and whether it's that 2,000 or 20,000 or 200,000, the fundamentals of a business and whether it has the ability to scale and succeed are the same.
Right. And you bring up a good point, because with what a lot of inventors do is they'll reach out to me, and the first thing they ask me, many of them, is, do you really love my product? Do you like share the same passion? I'm like, listen, there's two components, like you said. There's that first, like, okay, is this a fit? Am I capable of helping somebody? That stuff. And, do I like the product? Do I get excited about it? Do I want to like wake up every day and say, yeah, I want to work on this product because I really like it? And then there's well, I could like the product or not like the product, but if I think the product can do well, if I run it by a couple of retail buyers and they're like, I love this thing. If I don't even like it, but all the buyers do, and I come to you, Karen, and I say, well, listen, I'm just like so about your product. It's, it's okay for me. It doesn't get me, all excited or whatever. But man, I got buyers lining up for this thing. Do you want me to help you or not? I mean, if you tell me, Jim, I really need you to be as passionate about my product as I am, that's a wrong answer. If you're in business to make money, you let me go and keep going and get that product into those retailers and make your money. I mean, I want to be excited about a product, of course. I mean, it's much more fun to pitch a product that I really would want to use myself or really like, but I don't have, it's not a requirement for me, because if you're hiring me to get a result or try to get a result. And that's what matters. There's the business side of it, and then there's that emotional side of it. And I see this with angel investors. Like you said, there are investors that love a product or they think it's great. But then there's the metrics, the business, the numbers, the side of it that has to add up. And if it doesn't add up, a big thing that you see when people send me business plans. So an inventor will send, let's say they're a doctor, and they send me a business plan. They want to get a product to market, but they don't have a sales team, a marketing team, or anybody. I wouldn't invest in that company. You're a doctor.
Yeah.
You be a good doctor, but you don't know about this business. So you need to either involve people that can help me get my money back, like people who are experienced in marketing products and selling products or whatever, versus you think you're going to do it on your own, and I'll never see my money, because you might be a great doctor, but do you know how to talk to retailers? Do you know how to develop products? Do you know how to market them on social media? No. I could love that product is like more than anything. I'm not going to touch it because I know that it's probably not going to be successful unless there's a team around it to get that product sold, to make money, to make a profit so I can make money.
Yeah. That's the capitalist side of compassionate capitalism. I say, whenever so I've been on my card for a decade. And so people say, oh, is that possible? You can be a compassionate capitalist? And it's like capitalism is the ecosystem that we thrive on. That's because it is I think it's the purest form of an ecosystem, because if a product doesn't have doesn't fit a need in the marketplace or a desire in the marketplace and isn't priced where people are willing to pay for it, it won't succeed. Right. I mean, it's a natural supply and demand, or Darwin, whatever you want to call it, where, the ones that you can make money when you have a product that people want and they're willing to pay what you can make money making that product for, or that service or whatever. And that's the capitalist system. And when you can marry that up with the passion that an entrepreneur has in building a company around that product and more, right? That's the compassion side of it. So the compassionate capitalist is where we can marry these things up, and it's the win-win-win of all these different.
That's a perfect storm, right? That's what you want. If you can get that, that's great, because everybody's motivated. Everybody is excited about what they're doing. The numbers add up potentially. Yeah, that's what we all want to see. There's no question. It doesn't always happen, but again, a lot of times because people something's missing. They don't understand something, or they heard something and they think that's the way it should be. But unless they've done it 100 times, like you have, for example, they're not going to know. And I think that's the key part there, that they have to understand all the little parts and pieces combined with the passion and the emotion. And as long as you keep your head clear, there's a big difference between being emotional and passionate. I mean, emotional decisions aren't always the best decisions. Passion is just that, hey, I'm going to get up every day. I'm motivated. I can do this. I want to do this. That's a different thing. But at the end of the day, you got to say, okay, right. Does the business have what it needs? Does the dollars and cents add up? Do I need to get something, fix something, change something? That's when you get all those things together and they all work right, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we could probably talk about this stuff for a long time. You and I, share a lot of common values and passions, and the love of entrepreneurism, the love of innovation, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not sure how much people would watch much past the mark that we're about to get to. So
that's what's the limit? Like 30 minutes or so. People start.
Yeah,
I even do it. I like short. Like things I could watch and get information from. But but this is important because money, it really runs everything. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no business without the dollars, and you can't start a business without money. You can't feed your family or take care of things in life without money. So unfortunately, we can't just get into businesses and it just be a hobby. You got to make money at it, and if you do, then obviously it's successful, and then you can do all those other things that aren't business related, like things you want to do personally. But yeah, you're right. It's a never-ending discussion. But I mean, like I said, your book really kind of gets into a lot of all these things, and that's people need that information from people that understand it. It's like it's a wild west out there right now with
it is
crowdfunding, and I'm sure the government's going to start clamping down on how things are done there. Versus like the a true angel investing community. There's more checks and balances and more systems in place to gauge who can invest, what they invest in, and the outcome of the investment. On crowdfunding is great as I think it is, and I think it's a huge help to inventors, obviously, because they can get access to funds that they might not have been able to in the past.
Yeah,
but you still have to be careful, because if you donate, will you actually get your reward? Where's the money actually going? There are things that aren't being scrutinized enough yet, I think. And you hear a lot of bad stories about people just taking the money and running kind of a thing. I'm sure that will change. It's getting that big, that business that, when there's money involved, people are going to get involved so it works right. But overall, there's a lot more options for people today. That's good news.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's we're in a new phase of and you being in the inventing space, and all that kind of stuff. You know, I always laugh about the fact, what was it, like in the 1800s, that the guy that was the head of the patent office said, oh, we should shut down the patent office because that's everything that can be invented has been invented, you know?
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the whole thing. That's what I love about entrepreneurism, is because it's something people think of something up here, and if they do all the things right, it can become a whole new way of solving a problem. It's just, you know, and CEOs and executives and people that may not be able to be an entrepreneur, they may not want to take all the risk associated with that. They can go get this, figure out how to put their money to work on the right side of the cash flow quadrant to be an investor. And so I'm going to give my plug. Go to KarenRands.co, and also Inside Secrets to AngelInvesting.com. And it's also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble or any of those places. The links to that are on my site. You can go also sign up for the Compassionate Capitalist Coffee Break, where you get little bite-sized chunks of minute videos to get these tips and
those are great. That's what people, you know, that's a fun thing, because like you said, sometimes people are just, everyone's busy, but if they can get like a 2-minute, just something.
Yeah.
That helps them. It really
My
is.
challenge is going to be making a little 2-minute out of this 30-minute.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Side of that thing, yeah. So, well, maybe we'll come back on and we'll do a 2-minute boom, and yeah, those are fun too. But you're right. If people want little bites of information that they could actually put to use, or it can help motivate them to make, you know, better decisions about investing and, you know, just anything in business.
Okay, so thank you very much, Jim, for coming on and talking with me today and having this lively conversation. And anybody wants to get more information about all the stuff that Jim does, you go to weknowbusiness.info is the best place, right? And then, of course,
that'll do it. They can find me else from there.
Anywhere else, right? Same thing. I accept LinkedIn. I'm pretty open on social media. The Karen Rands on Facebook, and LinkedIn is as long as you're not little blue and white drawing of a person, then, you know, I pretty much will accept you. So, okay, great. Thank you very much for being on today, and I look forward to talking to you again. And let's partnering up on some stuff and helping some innovation come to market. Okay.
You got it. Thanks, Karen.
All right. Thanks.